1, 2, 3, 4.
Here we go again. It's episode 27 of Scuba Confidential.
We're back. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and you heard the dulcet tones there of my friend Ian, and also here is Lou, of course.
Hello.
This week we've got another guest interview on, which is quite exciting, and we'll get to that. Yeah, it's good. We'll get to that in a little bit. Before we move on to what's going to be happening on this particular episode, I just wanted to say it's been a bit of a good month for Patreon. So we've had 3 new Patreon supporters join our merry gang. We've got James, John and Catherine. So thanks for you guys for supporting us.
Yeah, thank you.
Every little helps, and that helps us to do more stuff, to have better recording equipment, to think about other projects we can do that will hopefully interest all you guys who are listening out there. So thanks for all that. And if you feel like you'd like to get involved as well, you can go to patreon.com/Scuba Confidential and join in. Just a couple of dollars a month really helps.
Join the merry gang.
Helps keep us afloat.
Does it?
Oh, we're getting puns out this early in the episode. Dear, oh dear. So we're gonna mix it up very, very slightly on this episode because it's going to centre really around Louise this week and her travels that she's been on, because she's been somewhere a lot more exciting than Ian and myself. And so we're going to mix it up slightly, and we're going to go straight into Louise with the news.
A new Guinness World Record has been set for the longest underwater walk with one breath. The new record was broken by the Turkish freediver and athlete Bilge Klingire, who walked a staggering 81.6 metres in 1 minute using just one breath.
Wow.
Incredible. The distance is the equivalent of walking up and down a bowling alley 4 times. Now, she not only broke the record in the female category, but she also surpassed the male category record holder, whose walk went on for 267 feet. She was essentially doing lengths of the swimming pool, on the bottom of the swimming pool, and she wore a standard weight belt and carried a dumbbell in front of her to maintain negative buoyancy in the water. And she also had to ensure that one of her feet was touching the bottom of the pool at all times. It apparently took her 2 years of arduous training to achieve the new record, increasing her original distance by almost 18%. So she was an existing record holder, but after all this training and focus, she's got back in the pool and, smashed the record.
One strong lady. Because you can imagine holding a dumbbell, right? So you've got that's over 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. She did 3 lengths of. And she's the whole time... Well, just walking in a swimming pool on its own is tough, isn't it? Because people do that as an exercise.
Underwater.
But to do that underwater, holding your breath, weights, and holding the dumbbell.
Yeah. She was wearing like gym gear
doing.
And just dropped down straight on with it.
Yeah. Imagine what the dumbbell was. Say it's like a 10K.
10K, I think. Yeah.
20-pound dumbbell. You're going to notice that even after one.
And you got all that water resistance.
I think that's the most impressive thing when I think about it, is the resistance of the water. It's going to be so much harder. And when I read it and heard the report when you were just telling us about it, I was thinking that's best part of 80 metres. I don't think many people could do that on land, wearing their favourite pair of Nike trainers. Never mind being at the bottom of a swimming pool with the resistance that goes with that. If anyone's ever tried just to wade through water waist height when they're at the beach or whatever, the kind of
I do find a good pair of Speedos help, though. I think when
there's an image we didn't need.
It helps with the aerodynamics under the water. I think
does
a
it?
Good pair of Speedos.
The old budgie smugglers.
Exactly. Yeah, I think depending on the colour as well, sometimes helps.
Yeah. Any recommendations on colour? Do you go for bright red? Are you Baywatch style?
Did I just say that out loud?
Yes, you did.
Is this recorded?
It's out there now. Yeah.
There'll be a whole load of people out there in podcast land
cringing.
Who won't be able to unsee that image. They'll just have that in their mind for the rest of their lives. I hope you feel happy about
Could be
that.
worse. At least I was wearing them.
Whoa.
Steady on. Okay.
It's a family show.
It is a family show. Speaking of records, you've got some records as well, haven't you, Ian?
Yes. I was having a little look, and I found that back in 2017, a group of people got together in a place called Dynamo Land near Frankfurt in Germany.
Called what?
Dynamo Land.
Domino Land?
Yeah. So dynamos, and they set these dynamos up. So there's 11. They set 11,466. Set them all up, and then knocked them all over. How good is that? They got a record for it. And then the next one, which I was really impressed with, this guy, he's got the record for the most chest presses under the water. He's done 40 of them. He had a 50k weight, so that includes the actual barbell as well. Yeah. His name was Fabian Becker, German guy, and he did 40 reps on one single breath.
Wow.
And that's
how
chest
deep
presses.
was that underwater?
About 4 meters down he was doing that.
Crikey.
And he did that on one breath. And also,
Guy.
there's also a record for the biggest wedding group as well, which I thought was quite interesting. 303 for that, and that got a record for that.
303 wedding guests underwater.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't have fancied the cake if it had been down there.
It's been a bit soggy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Where did you find these slightly dubious facts, Ian?
Power of the internet.
The power of the internet.
Yes.
You want to give any more
Guinness
deep?
Book of Records.
Oh, good. I thought you'd just gone to some weird conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing site
No.
and found these. These aren't for real, are
These
they?
are true. And actually, there's one more. Longest
He's off
underwater
now.
human chain for Women's Day this year was 107. And that was done in the Cayman Islands. And that was done for breast cancer charity as well. So that's this year.
Very
Nice.
good. Excellent.
Big up to them.
The UK government has granted a battleship wrecked in the Bristol Channel with protected status. The HMS Montague, which lies near the Isle of Lundy, was a Duncan-class pre-dreadnought battleship launched in 1901 in response to the British naval expansion prior to World War I. After it became grounded in fog in 1906, the ship couldn't actually be saved, so it had to be subsequently salvaged and broken up. Now, the protection status was granted after a host of archaeological material was gathered by wounded veterans who dived the wreck during the summer. The dive was organised by the veterans charity Help for Heroes and Historic England and Wessex Archaeology, and the dive included findings such as armour plating, gun turrets and shells. A set of steps carved into the granite cliffs as part of the salvage operation was also awarded with protected status. So it's the actual wreck and its surrounding area. Duncan Wilson, Chief Executive of Historic England, said the steps were forever linked to the landscape of the island and that combined, the wreck and the steps provide a rare group of maritime monuments. Good news for divers though, the new status for the wreck means that the area is actually classed as a nationally important archaeological site, but recreational divers can explore the site responsibly. Basically, the existing remnants of the ship will be closely managed and surveyed, so it's still going to be available as a dive site, but it's got protected status and it's going to be managed properly and policed properly, which is really reassuring. And you've got a few facts to think about Lundy, haven't you, Ian?
Yeah, I was just having a look because I haven't heard of this little island. And it's based out there in the Bristol Channel, as you said. It's not very big, it's quite small.
It's southwest England, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And just near Devon. Its maximum length is 5 kilometres, so it's not very big at all. Population of 28. There's about 200 wrecks around this island as well. So there's a lot out there.
Good place for divers. It's quite famous, certainly with any divers in the UK. It's a very well-known spot. I think there's plenty of wildlife in that area as well.
Yeah.
You can interact with seals in the water sometimes.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like I'm showing off again, but I've actually dived there for a few days and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. If you're the sort of person who likes, for example, the experience of diving in the Farne Islands, which Ian talked about in a previous episode, I think it's a really nice spot. It is secluded. You go out there on a boat, you are out there for a few days, and it is a little bit like Craggy Island from the show Father Ted, where you're isolated out there with not much out there apart from the diving, and there's a pub up there and that kind of thing. But the diving is really nice. There's a lot of kind of floating around in the shallows with seals in the kelp, a bit like you would experience in the Farne Islands, 5 or 10 metres of water. And just because the topography, where the bottom of the seabed drops away from the island quite relatively sharply as you move away from the island, there are some wrecks there, like you said. So I thought it was a really nice place to go, and the diving's quite accessible there.
And it's really pleasing to know that the wrecks in the area are being looked after and they're being protected responsibly. So they're still available to divers, but
they're always full of wildlife
protected
as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
so there's always
exactly.
lots on them and to see. And
the area is, it draws in tourism, so it's a win-win, really.
Yeah. We like win-wins.
Win-wins are becoming our
Yes.
a new catchphrase over the past few episodes. I don't quite know how that happened, but it's happened.
Positive thing.
It's slipped in there, so to speak. Right, okay. Is that it for the news?
That was the news.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you very much. We'd normally do this first of all, but because we're just going rogue this week, we'll talk about it now. We were just going to talk about what we've been up to. Mr. Ian, what have you been up to?
I was due to go diving off the North Norfolk coast a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. The day I was due to go, the weather conditions were totally against it and got blown out, so that was a bit of a shame. So in the meantime, plenty of stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking off North Norfolk coast in the meantime. This weekend coming, I'm on dive master duty, looking after the rear as we do, helping, keeping the instructors going.
What you do in the hotel's entirely up to you, Ian.
But so doing that this weekend. So looking forward to that. Last time I was on dive master duty was June, I believe. So
Been a while then.
It has, yeah. It'd be good to get back up there and do it,
Well, I was up teaching a couple of weekends back as well, and that was really nice. I taught an open water group, just 4 guys, and they were a really good bunch. I'm not going to say their names and embarrass them in the middle of the podcast, but they were really sound guys, and it was just one of those weekends where they were guys who had trained with me in the pool and the classroom. They knew what to expect. They seemed really keen, enthusiastic. And we briefed them. There was myself, there was Nick, a dive master who works for me quite a lot, and Claire, who's a dive master trainee. And we briefed them, and we got in the water, and they did what we briefed, and we did the dives, and we got out from the dives and debriefed the dives. And it all ran like clockwork, and they progressed really, really well through the weekend. And they were one of those groups where I was really proud of them. I thought they'd worked hard for it. They were enthusiastic and they listened and learned throughout the entire course. And I was very, very happy to sign their paperwork and for them to go off into the world as new divers. Yeah. So I was really happy with that. But it pales into insignificance compared with what Louise has been up to. You better tell everyone, Louise.
Well, yeah, I've been to Indonesia for the past 2 weeks. In particular, North Sulawesi, which is an island in Indonesia. Yeah. And it's famous, certainly with divers, for hosting 2 particular areas of an interest. So there's Lembeh, or the Lembeh Strait, and also there's Bunaken. Lembeh is off the east coast of North Sulawesi. It's a small island just off the east coast, and basically you've got the Lembeh Strait, which is a stretch of water that runs between the mainland and Lembeh Island. Bunaken is on the west
That's a good name,
coast.
Bunaken.
Bunaken, yeah.
Bunaken.
Which is on the west coast of North Sulawesi. And it's the marine park, essentially. So the Bunaken Marine Park has got 5 islands. It's absolutely fantastic diving. So yeah, had a lovely time out there.
It has an amazing reputation, that part of the world. For the diving and just because for the people and the way of life out there. Where were you staying when you were out there?
Well, when we stayed in Lembeh, so we landed in North Sulawesi. She landed at a place called Manado, which is the main city. And you travel sort of a couple of hours, probably in a minibus, over to Lembeh. And you get a boat across from the mainland to Lembeh Island, which takes 5 or 10 minutes, like a little sort of fishing boat type thing. So we stayed at a resort called White Sands, which is part of Eco Divers Indonesia. And the resort...
So does it stand up to its name?
What's that? White Sands?
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's volcanic, so it's black sand in that particular area.
It's called White Sands.
But we had the only beach that's got white sand.
Really? How cool is
So
that?
quite a few of the resorts out there, they either don't have a beach at all, it's just mangrove, or they have a very small stretch of black sand beach. But we had a really nice,
which are hot on your
normal
feet
white
as well.
sand
That's
beach.
black sand.
Very
and
hot.
that's like Tenerife, when we go out there, it's hot.
Yeah, very similar kind of landscape really. But yeah, we stayed on Lembeh Island at the White Sands Resort, which is absolutely fantastic, and just 6 or 7 small bungalows. It's still being built actually, so it's a work in progress. It's got great potential, so when it's completely finished, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic resort, and it's nice and quiet, nice and leisurely. So we just went out on the dive boat 8:30 in the morning, a couple of dives, back in time for lunch around 1:30, another dive in the afternoon, and then if there was demand for it, then there's a night dive as well.
Chill out.
Lembeh is a really unique place to dive, mainly because of the cool critters out there, and it's a different type of diving. So generally in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, it's nice reef diving. So nice clear waters, general reef diving, wall dive slopes. Whereas Lembeh is completely unique in that it's, like I said, it's black sand, but you do muck diving. So for anyone who doesn't know what muck diving is, it's essentially diving in not great visibility. We had about 10 metres visibility, and it's not your standard reef, so it's not your soft corals and your big sea fans and that sort of style. It's quite bare sea bottom essentially. You get the odd bit of an enemy here and there, but it's all about the cool critters. So you basically backward roll off the boat. Yeah, we had a dive guide who would point out certain things, and we'd kind of read online, it's really cool for seeing, really unique species. Yeah. And we were thinking maybe they're going to be really tiny things and we're going to see 1 or 2 on a dive. Completely blew our minds. As soon as you drop down, wow, hairy frogfish. And it's the size, or, twice the size of my hand. And it's just there, just sat chilling on the bottom. You turn around, it's a thorny seahorse right there in front of you. Pootle along for another couple of metres, and you've got a orangutan crab there, and it was just constant. It was just bang, 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 just these amazing creatures.
Crab.
Have you not? They're amazing. No. They're my favourite. One of my favourites. I had many favourites while we were out there.
An orangutan crab.
I'm quite partial to an orangutan crab.
Can eat a whole one.
I mean, I've been lucky enough to see some of the footage that you and David brought back, and the critters and the life you get there. It's like something from a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
You can see how this life has just evolved to be perfectly adapted to the environment it's in, and some of the colours in the footage, even unfiltered, the colours were just so vivid. When you get some of the creatures, like it was the flamboyant cuttlefish, it's amazing. It's like a disco light swimming around.
They change colour, don't
they? It's the colour changes and the vividness of the colours, and they're just strange looking creatures. The
variety as well. Yeah. It's incredible. The diving we've done up until now, so we've dived in Thailand and Komodo and Bali and various other places, and the amazing creatures that we were seeing in Lembeh, like I say, it was constant. You'd see, I think David did a dive one morning and saw 7 flamboyant cuttlefish on one dive. And that would be a big deal. Somewhere like Komodo, which, not dissing Komodo at all, but if you saw flamboyant cuttlefish, that would be the highlight of your week. That would be a big deal.
Right.
But you see them 7 on one dive in Lembeh.
I love that word as well, flamboyant cuttlefish. What a great name.
They're rather fabulous.
Totally Vogue.
But it's absolutely incredible. So, for instance, just a few of the things we saw: mimic octopus, blue-ringed octopus, thorny seahorse, orangutan crab, pygmy seahorse, coconut octopus, my personal favourite. Just so many cool critters. And like you say, you see them and your mind is blown. You're thinking, oh, is that a creature? Is that just a part of the seabed? Is it? What's going on? Yeah, it's amazing.
What sort of temperature was it?
Temperature, so it's a bit cooler. So there's a southerly wind blowing, so it's very blustery out there.
But water temperature?
Water temperature between 22, 24 degrees. I dived in a full length 3 mil wetsuit. Dive times on average about 85 minutes, 70 to 85 minutes.
So it's on par with sort of the Red Sea sort of temperature?
Yeah, it's kind of earlier on in the year. Yeah. Like I say, we were in the water for a long time. So it did get a little bit chilly. Generally speaking, the visibility was around 10 metres. You don't actually dive that deep in Lembeh. So muck diving, the majority of the sites anyway, I think there's 52 sites in Lembeh, and the average dive depth is only 15 metres, I would say. I
That's
think
great, but
the deepest we went all week was like 18.
Yeah.
But that facilitates what you do, and you're talking then about doing 85-minute dives. Of course, when you're in shallow water, you haven't got no decompression concerns. Your gas lasts longer in terms of your consumption, so you can just spend some time. I mean, I bet in the area the size of a coffee table, you would just see amazing life, like like a Blue Planet DVD, and just...
It's quite overwhelming. It's when you get back on the boat, you're trying to process what you've just seen, and it's really hard to explain really to people who haven't been there, but it's an absolutely beautiful part of the world. And certainly the dive sites that we did were all sheltered, so there was quite a wind blowing, so the sea was slightly choppy, not too bad. But the majority of the dive sites that we went to were in secluded bays, which is really nice. So you just drop down, roll off the back of the boat, and then you come up, and usually they've moored the boat into like a tucked away area behind some rocks. So you get back on the boat, have a cup of tea and some coconut cookies, and
happy days.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's very easy diving. It's very relaxed, chilled,
It's nice
easy
though when you're on
diving.
holiday. It's what you want.
What I would say about Lembeh is that because of the nature of the diving, you do have to make sure that your buoyancy is spot on. So your position in the water is really important. Lembeh attracts a lot of photographers. It's really big for anyone into their macro photography in particular. It's an absolute haven. But your position in the water has to be spot on. Because it's such fine black sand, I actually learned how to reverse fin while we were out there.
Oh, cool.
Welcome to my gang.
Yeah.
Exactly. So rather than going up to hairy frogfish, for example, and you can get relatively close, and then you back away to allow the next person to come in and take their picture. And a couple of times, me and the bear would just gently fan away with our hands just to kind of back away. And even though you're half a metre or so off the bottom, it will stir it up still. Yeah. We're a bit mortified about. So we kind of, got into the knack of backfinning, which is surprisingly easy actually. It's a very fragile ecosystem you're dealing with as well, so you don't want to be kneeling down and kneel on a flamboyant cuttlefish or anything that's going to sting you. So it's very disciplined diving, but it is very easy, but you do have to have your buoyancy nailed really.
Yeah, it's a subtle kind of place. It sounds like where I would guess find a spot where you're neutrally buoyant and just absorb what you're seeing, as opposed to other places in the world where you've been and I've been, where you're on a split point for a current and you're waiting for something big to come past in the blue. That's like a complete contrast in Lembeh. We'll come back to Lembeh in a minute, but you then went from the east coast where Lembeh Island is over to the Bunaken National Marine Park on the west coast, didn't you?
That's right, yeah. So Bunaken is off of the west coast of North Sulawesi. So we travelled from Lembeh across the mainland, and then you arrive in Manado, which is the main city, and it's essentially a port city. So you get most of the big sort of ferries that go over to the Philippines. That's where they'll dock up. And there was a short hop over to the beautiful island of Saladen. Saladen is one of 5 islands in the Bunaken Marine Park. Bunaken is quite well known because it's the main island over there, place with the most resorts essentially, and it's also where the majority of the dive sites in the marine park lie. Beautiful reefs, and we spent 4 days over there, diving over there. Due to health reasons, I only managed 1 dive in Bunaken, unfortunately, but the bear did pretty much every day, and I just enjoyed some snorkeling. Again, it's completely different to Lembeh. So Bunaken and the area around the marine park, it's more classic reef diving. So it's big walls, big drop-off slopes, and it's clearer water. So, for instance, average depth was, sort of 20 metre dives. So you've got 20 metres visibility going on, and it's warmer because of where you're located. It was probably, I would say, 28 degrees in the water. So I was wearing just a 3mm shorty, and I was more than warm enough, which is great.
Did you do any night dives?
I did a night dive in Lembeh, it wasn't actually a designated night dive, but there's a dive where you can see mandarin fish, and there's one spot in the Lembeh area in the Lembeh Strait. It's a very small dive site called Bianca, owing to a big boat
Great
basically name. That's moored up there called the Bianca. And it's right next to the shoreline, so it's in like a little bay. And you can see mandarin fish at dusk. You drop in at dusk. You stand, you hang and watch the mandarin fish for about 20 minutes, and it's where they come out and mate. And we were really fortunate enough to see, I would say about 20 mandarin fish. The bear and I kind of moved around, so some guys taking some pictures, and we kind of just moved around and saw some more mandarin fish just in like a little pocket. And when they mate, they basically the male will kind of try and impress the female, and then they'll shimmy together to like belly to belly, and then they'll just rise up and then just drop down again. And it's so quick, but it's really beautiful. It's like they're doing this little dance, belly to belly, and then and then they drop down. And we managed to see that very, very small moment of a mating, which is really special, actually. Really beautiful little fish. Basically, afterwards, it turns into a night dive, because by the time you've hung there, watched the mandarin fish do their little shimmy, it's then onto a night dive. It was quite eventful in that my torch failed, though. Oh no! So we watched the mandarin fish, and obviously the light's pretty much gone then. So then it's torches on, and I thought, it's not shedding much light. So, you kind of like give it a bit of a shake and
tap.
Great. Yeah, my torch has died. Brilliant. And I checked the charge. I checked before, worked absolutely fine. As soon as you get in the water, my torch died. So we, obviously gesticulated to the dive guide, my torch is broken. And so I linked arms with the bear, who had his torch on his camera. But after 10 minutes of swimming around, linked in his arm, I really wasn't comfortable with that. Yeah. So we tugged on the fin of the dive guide, fighting the life out of him. And he loaned me his backup torch, which is a really nice torch, actually. And so it was a really nice dive. We saw loads of stuff that you don't, like any night dive, you see loads of stuff, loads of animal behaviours that you don't see during the daytime. So that was really special.
Sounds like you had an amazing time. On Lembeh, who are you diving with?
So we dive with a company called Eco Divers. So shout out to Eco Divers Indonesia. And they're based around Indonesia. It's like a franchise, and they are on Manado. So they're based on the mainland. So there's a centre in Manado, and they're also in Lembeh as well. And
for the listeners, you did sterling work, because you managed to tag one of their leading instructors, didn't you?
I did.
Adam Silverman.
Yeah.
And grab him for an interview. Mm-hmm. Should we have a listen?
Certainly did. Let's do it.
Cool.
So, Adam, firstly, thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with us today. As we both know, I've had the pleasure of diving and chatting with you over the past few days during my stay here at the White Sands in Lembeh. However, I was just wondering if you could kick things off by just introducing yourself to our listeners and explaining a bit more about who you are and what you do.
All right. My name's Adam. I'm the instructor here at Eco Divers in Manado and in Lembeh. I've been here for almost 2 years. I have to say, the reason they hired me here, this is actually my first job as an instructor, and to be able to get a first job in a place like Manado and Lembeh is quite fortunate. But I know the reason for that is that I can speak Chinese because I lived in Taiwan for 11 and a half years.
Awesome.
And when I teach, I'd say 90% of my students are Chinese.
Right, okay.
So we're able to service those people. So we get a lot of business from that, which is good.
So what was it that initially brought you to Indonesia and ultimately convinced you to stay? So what was your background?
All right, so I actually had my very first macro experience in Tulamben.
Okay,
on the east side of Bali.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, at that time, I was a bit like I think you guys are now. Mm-hmm. You're looking at this stuff and being just like, wow, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but so interesting.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, I actually did my dive master course here in Lembeh.
Okay.
Right? I spent a month here. I did 73 dives over the course of that month, and I was still seeing new things. In fact, I'm still seeing new things now. It just never ends.
Yeah.
That's the magic of this place. But during that time, just staying here, being here all the time, diving here, I got a feeling of what life would at that point in time would have been like should I have ended up here working here.
Right.
And I was just like, yeah, this is what I need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
You found your calling.
yeah, so about 7 months after that my dive master course ended, here I am. I used to do software consulting.
Okay.
You know, I lived and worked in 7 different countries, and I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
And I was just ready for something different. I was just like, this is just kind of going on and on and on, and it's not rewarding for me anymore. So I wanted to change my life. So here I am.
That's really cool.
You know, going from somewhere where the only windows you have are made by Microsoft
Yeah.
to being right on the beach in front of some of the best diving in the entire world. It's an amazing change.
That's a huge turnaround, yeah. But fair play to you. And a lot of people wouldn't be brave enough to take that step, and have a lot of self-doubt. So yeah. I got full support from everybody from doing this. Even my parents were very happy because they knew that I wasn't happy with my previous job. So they just wanted me to be happy. And I can tell you again, the fact that I can speak Chinese is what makes it very easy to find these jobs in these areas. So I guess every day is different for you working out here with various challenges and experiences, but how would you describe a typical day for you working out here in Lembeh and Bunaken?
All right, so I wake up in the morning, I have breakfast, and the important thing is I see a lot of smiling faces. Right? As I was talking about earlier, I used to work in IT and nobody was ever happy. They only come find you when there's something wrong. Everybody's stressed out. Big difference here is, everyone knows that they're going to do amazing diving. So you always see happy faces. It's a very nice thing to wake up to.
Yeah.
Right. So I take them diving, show them all this stuff. And for me, I love seeing people's reactions, especially the people who've never been to Lembeh before, because it's such a bizarre and unique diving experience. And the thing is, we see this reaction a lot. It's a common reaction because it's really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Not just on what you see, but how much different stuff you can find in one spot. And just how strange it is. So, and that's one of the things I really like.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Another great thing about this is because it's such a famous dive spot is that people come from all over the world to come dive here. And for me, getting to meet people from all different countries, getting to share experiences and share stories and just learn about, different people, different things is very, very rewarding. Right. It's not, the diving is not enough, but you have that, packed on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's really, being here every day is just an amazing experience.
Yeah. So people make the job for you, really.
That's right.
Yeah.
And for me, I think for everybody here as well, we know how hard it's not the easiest place to come. You have to travel pretty far and it takes a long time. And, we know that. So we want to make sure that when people get here, we give them the best experience possible.
Yeah.
And part of that is, just treating people like friends, trying to just chat with people, learn about people, not so much treating them as guests or customers like this, like other hotels would do, but just, hanging out, making an overall good experience for everybody.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Hanging out as just fellow divers.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what we aim for here.
Yeah. And it's great. Myself and David have been here for 4 days now. And it's just such a laid back vibe. It's really friendly. It's just like being, like you say, just hanging out with some friends. It doesn't feel too formal or rigid or contrived. It's really made the whole experience for us.
It is. You guys have only been here 3 days, 4 days, but I feel like we've known you forever already, just from hanging out all day, every day, and sharing these experiences with you guys. We get that a lot, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's part of the, how would you say, part of the package.
Absolutely. So tourism clearly plays a massive part in sustaining North Sulawesi's economy. What steps have been taken by authorities and dive centres to ensure that the dive sites around Lembeh and Bunaken remain healthy?
That's actually a very good question. In both places, in Manado, our dive shop is in a 260-room resort that removed all the plastic. So what they did is they put water coolers out in the corridors and gave everybody plastic jugs. And then they can reuse these jugs for all the water as much as they want.
Excellent.
And so that eliminates the waste. And it's the same thing here. You look around and there's no plastic bottles.
Right.
Every room has a water a jug in it with glasses, so everyone can get as much water as they want. The other thing we do is we give away these what do you call them? Tumblers.
Yes.
Yeah, these indestructible tumblers. Yeah. So you can fill those up with water and bring those on the boat or bring those wherever you want, and take those with you. So whenever you go to the next spot, you're not generating as much waste as you would have been.
And it's advertising for the company, which is great. It's a win-win, isn't it? And it's the first resort that we've been to where they've been given to guests for free, which is so, it's inspiring stuff. Yeah.
So when we had the help of the local government here. Right. They had a big, huge kickoff last year for this, just to let everybody know. And I think there's other hotels and other resorts in the area that have followed suit since. But I think we were the first.
It's really encouraging to hear. Regarding the actual dive sites themselves, is there restrictions on how many boats can be at a particular dive site at one time?
Actually, they do. And this is actually a good thing for the guests, is that any dive site, the rule is they can't have more than 3 boats at any site at one time. And what that prevents, actually 2 things, is that it prevents it being so crowded, but it also prevents the stress on the marine life as well. Most of the people come here for photographs. And I mean, I'm not a fish whisperer, but I couldn't imagine that having flash bulbs going off in your eyes all day can be very comfortable for the fish, just like it wouldn't be comfortable for people either. So they have this kind of rule to lower the stress on each site for each dive.
That's great. That's really good to hear, because like you say, it's such a popular place to come and dive. It has to be policed. It has to be responsible diving. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. The thing is, if there's too many people, it's just going to get destroyed. And then, everybody knows, even the government or the people here, they know how special this place is, and they understand that this is a incredible spot for diving. So they really do go out of their way to make sure that it can be sustained.
That's really encouraging to hear. And so you touched on the diversity and the cool critters that you get here in Lembeh. What do you believe sets Lembeh apart from the other dive destinations? So, for instance, what's the difference between Bunaken and Lembeh, just for our listeners, just who haven't been here before?
Wow, how much time do we have for this?
Bullet points.
Okay, bullet points, summary. Wow, how much time do we have for this? Okay, wow, that's a good question. It's a bit hard. So, Bunaken and Lembeh are 2 completely different diving experiences, okay? Bunaken is more about big things, huge variety, something like 60% of all the Indo-Pacific fish and 70% of all the coral you can find in one spot. And then here in Lembeh is just macro paradise. I mean, you've been diving here. You've seen how many things. I mean, I was telling you guys, you can pick probably any square foot of sand out here, and there's something happening in it, right? Yeah. So I think between the 2 spots, between Bunaken and Lembeh, I think out of anywhere in the world, you can't find this much variety in one area. Okay? But what makes it special is that's a tough question to answer. You really have to come see it to believe it, because words don't do it justice.
I can totally, agree with that. Having seen it for myself, it's pretty special. And the muck diving out here, as they call it, it's not great visibility. It's kind of like a dark sand, isn't it? Because it's volcanic. So for anyone coming out to Lembeh in particular, expecting there to be coral reefs. It's not that way of diving, but it will really open your eyes up to a whole new diving experience.
Yeah, so let me further that statement as well and say, I mean, there are patches of coral here. It's nowhere even close to Bunaken. Yes, the visibility isn't very good, but don't let that fool you. This type of diving is not this kind of, you want to look out into the blue, because things are so small here. You're generally just looking right below you.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that the visibility doesn't matter is not really important. Yes, it's not colorful. It's not pretty, but it's phenomenally interesting and very, very different.
So for anyone who's really into their wildlife and macro photography in particular, it is quite a mecca, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. And you want to experience something different, come here.
There we go. You heard it for yourselves. Do you have any tips for our listeners who might be thinking about visiting this area soon? So anything in particular regarding the diving or local cultures and customs?
Yeah, come early and come often. That's the best thing I can tell you. I mean, if you do, like I said, I did my dive master course here. I was here for a month, 73 dives, and I was still seeing new things. And I still see new things now. I'd say I've done probably over 150 dives. So if you are going to come, and please do, try to stay for as long as you possibly can make it. Because the surprises, the critters never end. Also, the food is excellent. Local people are so fantastically warm. And it's just, like we've been talking about, it's just from top to bottom, it's just a wonderful experience. You will not go home disappointed.
Indonesia has a particular charm, doesn't it? The sights, the smells, like you say, the food is incredible. It's absolutely fantastic out here. Do you have any other things that you like to add while you're here on air?
If you want to do something different, this is definitely the place. You do these podcasts to give people an idea of what things are like, but it's really, it has to be seen to be believed.
Yeah.
I'm sure all your listeners have read about it and heard about it and they've seen the photos, but it all doesn't really do it justice until you actually get into the water and see it. So, please come by, let us know when you like to come. Our resort here is brand new. Actually, I forgot to mention this. Our resort here is brand new. It opened in May. It's actually still under construction. We're still building more cottages. We're expanding. It's right on the ocean. So 10, 15 minutes to the furthest dive site. Everything is brand new. Everything is beautiful. Our resort faces due west. So every night, if the weather permits, there's a beautiful sunset. When the clouds are not in the sky, the night sky is very starry. So if you like the outdoors, you like nature, underwater, topside, all fantastic.
The actual landscape is worth mentioning, actually, because even though the area relies so heavily on tourism, it doesn't dominate the skyline. So the actual landscape, it's very natural looking. It's not high-rise apartments and big hotels. So they're actually quite discreet resorts, aren't they?
Yes, and one of the things you don't really realize is that when you're here either in Lembeh or in Manado, you don't realize how far off the grid you are. I mean, this place is pretty remote. It's not, I'd say not as remote as a place, let's say like Raja Ampat or something like this. But I mean, you're pretty off the grid here. And that's a nice thing. You're not going to come here and it's going to be flooded with people. And, you can go some places where you don't get any feeling, any flavor for the place that you're in because it's just overrun with tourists. And there's not people bothering you on the street to buy things or take you here or sell you this or whatever. It's not this type of place. You come here, you do nice diving. It's very relaxing, as we said, very chilled out, very easygoing, and that's part of the experience. You don't have to feel like you're going to be bothered to be here.
No, it's just complete mental detox. And it's not overly commercialised, which is really nice to see. Thank you so much for your time today, Adam. Really appreciate it. Obviously, we'll tag Eco Divers on social media. So on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And just like to wish you all the best and many happy dives for the future.
Oh, thank you very much. And for you guys, I know you guys are going to leave soon, but if you need any recommendations for diving at any point in time, just give us a shout. We can always recommend.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks ever so much, Adam. Cheers.
All right, thank you.
So that's fantastic. It was fascinating to hear what Adam has to say. And he's leaving to one side the fact that he's in one of the best dive destinations in the world. Sounds like a really sound guy, and he's given up the corporate life for doing something which seems much more rewarding to him. So fair play to the chap.
Great place to earn a living.
Yeah, exactly right. So thanks for getting that, Lou.
That's all right, no worries. It was great chatting with Adam. And if you're listening, Adam, thanks again for spending some time with me, doing the interview, having a chat. It was really insightful. You can hear just through your talking just the passion that you've got for the place and your chosen vocation. And I think that really shines through. Yeah,
I think if you listen, Adam, you've made the right move. Yeah, I know you're probably earning a great deal more money in IT, but you sound like a very happy chap now. So well done for someone who also I wasn't earning the big bucks, but I did get out of the corporate world and sort of ran around the planet for a decade. I can sort of relate to that. And well done, fella.
Yeah.
Right. Now, wrapping up, no episode would be complete without Ian's factoids.
And Marcus, I thought you'd nearly forgot. Okay, here we go. So, as per usual, I'd like to just a little caveat. These may be true, maybe not. They're all power of the internet. But did you know the oldest known age for a fish was an Australian lungfish in 2003, and it was 65 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it had a bus pass, did it?
Yeah, they only knew the age because when they found it, they cut it in half and read the rings.
Of course they did.
They did, and found there were 65 rings, like they do in a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you find that one?
That may be true.
Okay.
Did you know most fish can see in colour and use colours to camouflage themselves, as you just now said? Mm-hmm. And they use that colour to mate or defend themselves, defend their territory, anything like that. Mm-hmm. Most fish have the best possible eyesight for their habitat and can most certainly see you maybe peering through an aquarium or see it from a distance in the water. And some fish can even see polarised colour and also ultraviolet light as well.
Wow.
Did you know?
I didn't know that.
So another little something you've learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, just to finish off on average, a flying fish can glide at 160 feet or 50 metres. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
50 metres. That's 2 lengths of the Olympic pool. Right?
Is that carrying a dumbbell as well?
And carrying a dumbbell.
Right.
But they have also been known to glide as far as 660 feet, 200 metres, and they can reach heights of up to 6 metres or 20 feet. So
that's impressive stuff.
That's high.
I'm still thinking about the 65-year-old fish. Has it got a blue rinse and a Cliff Richard LP under its fin?
Been a bit crusty with some chips though, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, no, I wouldn't fancy that, no.
That's definitely a good moment to wrap it up on, I think.
On that note,
yeah. On that note, we'll leave it there. I think we're going to leave that there. This is the last one before our birthday, I suppose, where we've been doing this silliness for about a year now.
How have we got that far?
I don't know. Fair winds and
therapy.
But yeah, a series of counselling sessions.
To our listener or to us?
For all of us, everyone concerned in the whole venture, I would think. But so for the next episode, what we were planning on doing is putting together a little compilation episode of all our sort of favourite bits from the past year that we've been doing this. But we'll be back soon. We did a poll online and asked some of our Patreon supporters what they'd like to see from us, guest interviews, training tips, etc. And we'll do some more of that when we're back after our little break for our birthday celebrations.
Can we nominate our own little favourite bits?
As long as it's not Fangs the movie, then...
No one did actually write in, did they?
No.
Or did you just delete them?
You're still upset about that, I can tell. No, there was nothing from Scorsese or Tarantino, Ian, I'm afraid.
I was going to be in, sort of go to Cannes and,
Cans or cans?
Cannes as well.
You can go to both if you want.
No one knocking on your door yet then?
No, not yet, no. It's back to the day job, I'm afraid.
I'm aghast. Yeah.
Right. What a shocker.
Yeah.
But anyway, on that note, just like to say, just remind everybody as usual to, if you do listen to us, please do remember to rate and review. Leave us a little review. It's a free way of supporting us, and you'll find us on all the usual social medias.
We'll also be putting some photographs to bore you with as well. So David's taken some really nice photos while we're out in Lembeh and Bunaken. So he's a bit of a dap hand with the old macro. So we'll be posting some pictures on our social media as well, so you can see what we got up to.
Excellent. Okay, I think that's it. We're done, aren't we?
I think so.
I think so.
Alrighty, we'll see you next time on Scuba Confidential. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Scuba Confidential. We really appreciate you tuning in today. We'd like to clarify that we're in no way affiliated with any agency or organisation. All opinions expressed during this podcast are our own. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at ScubaConfident1, Instagram and Facebook at Scuba Confidential, and if you'd like to support us via Patreon, go to patreon.com/Scuba Confidential. Any contribution is really appreciated. Additionally, if you have any suggestions for topics or discussions, just let us know at scubaconfidential@gmail.com. Many thanks to Plunkett Music for the groovy tunes, and we'll catch up next time. Until then, keep diving.